You probably think the global tech race is just warming up, right? Well, think again. Because while the rest of the world is, still trying to figure out how to get a stable 5G signal to load a video, a silent masterstroke is already playing out high above us. The architectural foundation for the next generation of connectivity, 6G, isn't just being researched in a lab somewhere. It's actually already being actively monopolized, piece by piece. It's a reality that brings us to a staggering, almost cinematic cliffhanger. While the world struggles with 5G, who already owns the stars? Okay, let's dive into this. Our mission for today's explainer is absolutely critical. We're going to decipher exactly how a unified national strategy has systematically combined microscopic chips, giant macroscopic satellite networks, and the Earth's raw materials into an unstoppable, vertically integrated 6G tech empire. We are looking at a sanctioned, insulated 6G tech empire that is rapidly rewriting the rules of global communication. Just look at this headline for a moment from South China Morning Post. This is the news behind today's video. China begins large-scale delivery of gallium chips for space-ground 6G network. Critical to the planned communication system are millions of third-generation semiconductors that use silicon-based platform. With that said, let's go straight to the intro. The algorithm buries channels that show the truth like mine every single day. The only thing that fights back is you. One like, one subscribe, turn on the bell icon. That's how the truth about China survives on YouTube. Don't let it disappear. Thank you very much. All right, layer 1, the signal heart breakthrough. To really understand how this empire operates, we've got to start small. Like microscopic. For decades, our entire digital world has run on silicon. But when you push up to the extreme frequencies required for 6G, we're talking 6 gigahertz all the way up to terahertz capability. Traditional silicon literally hits a physical brick wall. It suffers from severe degradation and it simply overheats. You just cannot power the 6G era with 5G materials. Now, what's really interesting here is the solution. It's a material called gallium nitride, or GaN. And this isn't just some minor incremental upgrade. It is a fundamental leap in materials physics. Because of its wide band gap of 3.4 electron volts, it handles higher frequencies, massive voltages, and extreme temperatures without breaking a sweat. It is the literal signal heart that makes ultra-fast, direct-to-satellite beam switching possible. And here's where the story shifts from, theory to a pretty chilling reality. 5 million. China's CETC No 55 Research Institute hasn't just been testing this miracle material in a pristine lab. No, they have already mass-produced and delivered 5 million of these GaN radio frequency chips directly into commercial smart terminals. Looking at this production comparison based on CETC and industry data, it's honestly a masterclass in industrial strategy. Growing gallium nitride on silicon carbide is prohibitively expensive, but they completely bypass that. By perfecting the process of growing GaN directly on cheap, standardized silicon wafers, they can just use existing silicon factories to churn out next-generation superchips at a fraction of the cost. They achieved low-cost, mass-market scale before anyone else even realized the race had started. Moving on to layer 2, the no dead corner network. Because, let's face it, a chip is only as powerful as the network it connects to. So let's zoom out from the ground up into the atmosphere. Right now, our current cellular networks are effectively just land-based islands. But SAGIN, the Space-Air-Ground Integrated Network, represents a foundational roadmap to change all of that. Imagine an information highway in the sky, built with intra-satellite laser links that are thinner than a human hair, seamlessly merging terrestrial ground towers with low Earth orbit satellites. Let's see how this builds the ultimate unified web. It happens in 3 distinct layers. First, you have the standard terrestrial cellular networks down here on the ground. Second, you layer in high-altitude platforms, think drones and UAVs, powering a whole new low-altitude economy. And finally, you blink at the top with a low Earth orbit constellation of over 10,000 satellites. This layered system tracks thousands of users at the exact same time, and the staggering ambition behind this entire architecture is perfectly summarized in one specific mandate: all-time, global, no dead corner coverage. Think about that.
from the deepest, most isolated desert dunes to the dead center of the Pacific Ocean. This network is engineered to wipe digital ghost towns off the map completely. Which brings us to layer 3, the gallium chokehold weapon. Because to construct an empire, you have to control the raw earth it's built upon. And this brilliantly illustrates a very gritty geopolitical reality. Based on USGS and industry reports, 94% of the world's primary gallium production is controlled by China. The entire rest of the world combined, a measly 6%. They don't just hold an advantage over the foundational mineral for 6G, they hold an absolute, undeniable monopoly. This level of dominance allowed for a pretty brilliant unified national security mandate. By implementing strict strategic export controls, they restricted gallium from leaving the country, which instantly created a massive domestic oversupply. The result? Artificially lowered, incredibly stable costs for their own internal tech giants. It basically acts as an indirect state subsidy, all while completely suffocating foreign competitors who suddenly can't access the raw materials they desperately need. And the industry pricing data shows exactly how massive these economic shocks have been across the globe. Following the export bans, the global average price skyrocketed by 68%. But look at the European market, a devastating 365% surge. Western developers are now facing these prohibitive cost barriers, having to scramble through expensive backdoor trade loops just to get trace amounts of the material to experiment with. To actually put a price tag on that vulnerability, macroeconomic modeling by the US Geological Survey ran the numbers. They estimate that just a one-year restriction on Chinese gallium exports would result in a crippling $3.1 billion hit to US GDP. And it's the semiconductor manufacturing sector that absorbs the absolute brunt of that massive financial shock. Alright, let's look at the endgame, the trillion-yuan horizon. When you combine the chips, the network, and the minerals, you get a total paradigm shift. You see, the 5G era was fundamentally about connecting a person to a machine within terrestrial bounds. But the 6G era, it is about synesthesia integration. It's essentially giving the network a nervous system. It seamlessly weaves together people, machines, things, and deeply embedded artificial intelligence. 6G becomes far more than just a communication tool. It integrates high-precision sensing, computing, and embodied intelligence right into the air around us. So the crucial point here is that this isn't just about faster download speeds on your phone. This integrated system is designed to be the primary economic growth engine for the entire next decade. By 2035, the strategic milestones include cultivating a trillion-yuan market, hitting a 60% domestic penetration rate, achieving mind-bending 1 millisecond metro latency, and fully powering the autonomous low-altitude economy of drones and flying vehicles. Okay, let's get into the next steps and conclusions. Bringing this all back to the immediate reality of the global tech race, the bottleneck for Western markets is, quite frankly, dire. Presently, there is an extreme supply risk and absolutely zero strategic reserve of gallium. Zero. In the short term, this means severely delayed hardware rollouts and frantic, highly expensive recycling attempts. And long term, it will require years of massive sustained investment just to build a parallel supply chain from scratch, just to even attempt to compete in the global standards race. What we are witnessing right now is effectively a checkmate. By combining unshakable mineral dominance, highly efficient state-directed manufacturing, and advanced orbital satellite deployment, China has constructed a vertically integrated powerhouse. They have successfully insulated themselves from foreign sanctions and are actively rewriting the rules for the 6G era. Which leaves us with one final kind of chilling thought to ponder tonight. In a world where the hardware, the network, and the literal raw materials of the Earth are completely locked down, what exactly is the next move on the global tech chessboard? Absolute madness, right? The speed at which this architecture is being locked in is truly breathtaking. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. We really want to hear from you. Drop your theories in the comments below on how you think this tech war plays out. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and above all, stay curious. Goodbye.